am Katie Green.
I am Dan Green. Welcome back to the Greening Out podcast. Now, Katie and I firmly believe in personal responsibility and taking care of yourself and your folk. For example, if we had a disaster that caused, society as we know it to collapse, then we certainly won't be relying on the government to save us. So on that weird note, joining us to talk about survivalism and self-sufficiency is James Burnette from survivalpunk.com. James, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. So, James, for our listeners who might not be so familiar with yourself or survivalpunk.com, what got you into survivalism and starting up your site?
I personally think I have the most interesting trip into the survival realm of anyone in the industry.
Okay.
And it was zombies.
Right
Zombies
on.
got me in.
Right on, man.
I've been sort of a lifelong fan of apocalyptic movies and zombie movies. And to this day, I still use them as a tool to sort of open people's minds. A lot of the zombie movies have metaphors hidden in them for a lot of the society problems going on. Yeah. And it's sort of a low ball pitch to get people into thinking about what could go wrong. You're like, hey, zombies are attacking. What are you gonna do? And they'll give you their stupid plan. Usually go into Walmart or something. And then you just ask them questions. You're like, well, how do you think that's gonna work out? So that's sort of like it gets the mind going and it gets you on that path of thinking instead of just bumbling through life. So I really like zombies for that. I can actually remember the night. I can remember exactly when I got in survivalism. It was I was Googling around one night looking for a novelty thing for my apartment, like a zombie survival kit, break in case of emergency or something just really cheesy.
Yeah.
And while looking for it, I found some like really sort of junky things, and then I stumbled across a forum website where people were making bug out bags, which are bags, for everything you would need if you had to leave in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
A lot of these aren't like over the top crazy things. They're things like, oh, you should have like a backup, credit card to get a hotel room or something in an emergency. Common sense things.
Yeah.
So the night that I found that forum and those bug out bag pictures, like I spent like 4 hours on it. I was like, this is a legit thing. People are really doing this.
Yeah.
And I just went down the rabbit hole from there.
Yeah, well, that is awesome because like something we've kind of we've thought about recently. For example, we watched a lot of kind of shows, these doomsday prepper shows and stuff like that. These kind of ones, and like sometimes they focus on people who are kind of a bit nuts. You know what I mean? But like,
yeah.
But then you kind of think you watch them, and some of these people are kind of crazy. But then you kind of think some of them aren't, and you kind of realize that even the ones that are a bit sort of crazy, you think, well, what they're doing makes sense. Because I mean, if you really think that when if like we have a major collapse, which could absolutely happen. I mean, if you think that I'm just going to sit here and I'll just wait till the government come and they'll send someone to come and help me, I mean, you're dreaming.
Yeah, I have issues with libertarians and anarchists that aren't prepared, because your plan is to wait for the government to save you, and the rest of the time to bash them. You can't be half hating. You've got to. I don't want the government to help me now, and I don't want them to help me in a disaster. I got myself.
Oh yeah, I mean,
absolutely, yeah. So, okay, James. Talk to me like I'm a novice, like I know nothing, which is close to reality. Not quite, but it's close. So, is there like a basic kit I should get myself together if I want to be prepared for anything? Is there like a first basic step that one can take to get into survivalism?
There's a lot, and I can compress it down fairly quickly to get you like, this is what you need to do now, and past that is icing on the cake.
Sure.
So first thing, and sort of an easy sell for everybody, is to create like a blackout kit. Like last night here in Tennessee, we had some really bad storms. I have a lot of friends without power, so if you just have like say get a milk crate, or a small little Rubbermaid tote or something, and put flashlights in it and candles and little things like that you're gonna need. Like if the power goes out, you get that, and it can even have things like, say you throw a Monopoly board game in there. You're bored, the TV's out. You light some
Exactly.
candles, you play Monopoly, you've got a good time.
Yeah.
And for people that have like kids, that's a great thing. Instead of being freaked out that the power's out, now we're having fun as a family and we're playing board games. Not that bad anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah, that's sort of like step number one. And that's if you just went to the store and bought that stuff, you're out maybe $30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got that, you put it up, and it's sort of insurance. So when the power goes out, you know where that's at. You go straight to it. You're done. The next big one, and that I really preach, is having savings. In the bank, in cash, different forms spread out. Because I've not yet experienced a zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
But I know a lot of people that have lost jobs. During the recessions and the crashes and stuff. A lot of people lost their jobs or got laid off or lost weren't making as much money. So if you can scrounge up and save $1,000, which really isn't that hard if you try. It takes so much pressure off your life. Like I know friends that have been devastated because they, something went wrong in their car and they're out $300 and they're living paycheck to paycheck. That's, you might not be able to eat that week. When you've got that $1,000 buffer, it makes life so much easier.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
It does. I think that is important. It's certainly something that Dan and I feel everybody should aspire to.
Yeah. And then beyond that, start building a deep pantry.
Okay.
So say you what's something you guys eat weekly? You buy it every week and it's stored. So like mac and cheese or a can of this. Something you guys eat a lot?
Tinned, like beans. We eat a lot of tinned beans.
Yeah, we actually do have a lot of stores of things like that's the one thing we actually have gotten good at recently, getting things like chickpeas.
Hoarding food.
Yeah, like sort of cans of like chickpeas and sort of
Basically
kidney beans and things like that. That's the one thing
Yeah.
we've been good at because we're quite new at this whole kind of
Well,
sort of, if you
trying
want to call
to
it the
be
prepping
prepared.
thing. Yeah, we're just trying to be more prepared and we're trying to get better at it. But that's one thing we're kind of good at is hoarding tins. We've got kind of a lot of those things like kidney beans, chickpeas, things like that.
Right. So, you go to the grocery store this week and you know that you ate, say, 1 can of chickpeas. Well, instead of buying one because you're going to eat one this week, buy 2.
Yeah.
You put both of them in the cabinet. And then next week you go back and you're like, well, I need to replace that 1 can of chickpeas I bought. So you buy another 2.
Sure.
So then you slowly build up, and you're really you're out an extra $1 or so a trip to the grocery store. You don't even notice it.
Yeah.
And after a few weeks, after a few months, you've got a huge stockpile of food and you haven't even noticed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's
it
called
makes a lot of
copycat.
sense. Yeah, of course.
And that's easy, and no one notices it. If you've got a spouse or something that's not on board with that, they don't even notice. You're spending an extra 50 cents or $1. Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like for example, we kind of live in a flat or an apartment in an urban area in the city sort of thing. And do you think that that's a kind of disadvantage? I mean, do you think that, for example, bugging in would not be an option if something major happened?
I right now I still live in an apartment, and I've lived in this apartment for like 5 years now. So most of my prepping has been, apartment prepping, and that's whole segments of the survival community. So if you've got, a close-knit group in your community, then I would say you have a benefit. I'd take a community, in an urban area over a bunch of people that hate each other in a rural area.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more important to be sort of on your own for this, or do you think it's more important to be part of some kind of a group in that kind of situation? if you could answer it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've alluded to it that I would take a community.
Sure.
I mean, me personally, I don't want to survive if I'm going to be the last person living.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
okay.
That would be the point.
there's so much more you can get accomplished in a community. You know, you
Yeah.
can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, small tribes, good tight communities, that's the dream for survival.
Yeah.
You know, I think mankind was better built to live in a small tribe than huge sprawling cities, you know. And especially not alone. Like your mind will break if you're by yourself for too long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We know.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, absolutely, but I kind of agree because we are sort of social animals, and it's interesting how you kind of say small tribe because something that I've been sort of doing recently is sort of looking back into sort of ancient history and things like that, and kind of the British Isles and things, and sort of digging back into what people did here before our kind of modern societies. And it does seem that these small tribal systems worked quite well. You know, from from my research, you know, like there was no kind of all-encompassing state.
Right.
Yeah, and these kind of small tribal communities worked together. They relied on each other. So that seems like a kind of natural way for, you know, humanity to be for me. I don't know if you'd agree, but that kind of seems like how, you know, it was formed naturally over centuries, you know?
It does seem like, I mean, that's where I'm going, that small tribes, small communities is where mankind will be happiest, sort of. Like, I feel like there's sort of a hole in our soul as a people today
Yeah.
where these you know, most people don't know their neighbors. They never talk to them. They're not friends with them. They come home, they get on the internet, they zone out. So this small, tight-knit tribes and communities, I think, are what we should start moving back towards, you know, where you know your neighbors, you're friends with them, you trade, you know, children, what was that quote? Children are raised by a tribe and not a single person or something.
It's not
Oh
one of
right. I'm not very familiar with it. I'm not very sure.
I'd have to look it up, but yeah, it's a quote
Yeah.
that, you know, childcare is better done in a tribe or community than, you know, as a single person. So you get the whole of the community teaching and, you know, bringing up your children instead of, you know, a single person or, you know, two single people.
Well, that's kind of it's funny because you mentioned that because that is it's quite true because we sort of in the Western world, you know, we have this idea of the nuclear family, say maybe two parents and a couple of kids or whatever, but that's not been the norm for centuries and stuff. I mean, there was a lot of different countries you could point to and a lot of different societies where having just one family isolated for everyone else was not the norm. It was more like kids were raised more in a community sort of raised by the community, you know, and that was so this kind of, we take it for granted now that just people, you know, you have your own family and things like that. But that's a more recent thing, but people don't seem to realise that. I think a lot of people think that that's just how it's always been, but that's not true. And in many parts of the world, this idea we have of small sort of nuclear families, I keep using that phrase, but that's not true in many parts of the world. And I think kind of a lot of Westerners don't seem to realise that, which is kind of weird.
No, I mean, shoot, most of our generation have been raised by a single parent, so that's even further removed from a tribe.
Yeah. Just
Which
one,
I think is
one
not
person.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on another shoot here. I just wanted to ask just a small question. James, did your anarchism come before your survivalism, or did your survivalism come from your anarchism?
That's kind of a wily question. So, growing up, I didn't really affiliate myself with either political party. I want to say I think my dad was Democrat.
Okay.
But I mean, I was like, you know, whatever. So I would pick whoever I thought was the least stupid running, you know.
Sure.
And then around when I was 19, I was homeless for a few months, and I got to playing on the internet at the libraries, and I stumbled upon anarchy, which not a formalized political system anarchy, more or less like I wanted to screw over the system and be a jackass.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
What everyone
So,
thinks
like,
an anarchist is.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I just wanted to. I was homeless. So I wanted to, you know, just screw the system over and be a
Stick it
monkey
to
in
the
the ranks.
man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I sort of did that. You know, I would say during the time that I was homeless, I called myself an anarchist, but it wasn't like a big political thinking. It was I just wanted to screw the man. And then, you know, I guess I kind of fell out of that and went back to apolitical. I didn't care one way or the other, to be honest.
Sure.
And then when I started looking into survivalism, I started hearing about libertarianism, which I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. I could agree with that. And then it just went down the hill, you know, with some friends in the industry and stuff, where I just was like, okay, I'm just going to call myself full anarchist.
Sure.
I'd rather not have the government. I'd rather fight for anarchy, which, to be honest, I kind of feel is an impossible dream. But if I could drag people that direction, it would be better.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I would agree. You know, I kind of think that probably anarchism is a multi-generational project.
Yeah.
You know, in my kind of view, you know, because, you know, Caity and I are anarchists, and still when you mention that to people, you know, they think that you're talking like Mad Max or something. You know, You know, they think, they don't understand, you know, that like it's not without, you know, it's without rulers, not without rules. Yeah, and that's the kind of struggle that you have to get, you know, into people's heads. But maybe someday. I don't really.
Getting over that hurdle where people think that when it's synonymous in people's minds when they hear anarchy, they immediately think chaos and destruction.
Oh yeah.
Instead of without formal government.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that mind that, you know, it was created by governments to put people off anarchy. I mean, it's what it's for.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, absolutely, because it's like I kind of think that government infantilizes us in such a way, you know, because they say, well, we'll just. I mean, it's even worse here. I know, like, it's not so bad for you in the States, but even, you know, I know it's bad, but not as bad, like, because we have government healthcare, you know, this National Health Service, and we have, like, we can't even own guns, you know, in the People's Republic of Britain, and that's the thing. It's like people just think, oh well, you know, I don't want to pay for my healthcare and stuff because the government's going to get that for me, you know, and I don't want to do this. And in this country, it's shocking the amount of people that don't want to take care of themselves. You know, adults who think, you know, they go, oh well, I pay my mortgage and things, but they're so infantilized because when things that really matter, they're just think, oh well, the government will get that. That's what I pay my taxes for, and it's such a destructive attitude. I just can't believe some people think like that.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He's kind of I don't know, socialist. We were talking. Yeah. I told him I was coming on you guys' show, and he was like, well, "What are their thoughts on the recent, you know, Scotland voting for the
the referendum?" Yeah.
Right. And I was like, you know, I'll look at, because I kind of look at your side a little bit to get an idea. And he was like, oh, you know, it's terrible they voted down, and he gave me this long lecture on why, and, you know, like you guys would have to provide for your own military protection and this and that. And I was like, and I went back and forth, and he's pro-government as heck, and it's just really annoying.
Well.
You know, it's like arguing with the wall sometimes.
Oh yeah. I know that you get that. I mean, we went back and forth a little bit at the start with the Scottish independence referendum because we did vote yes, and we've said that. But our problem was, like, what some people, like, we had talked to a lot of friends of the show and listeners to our show in America, quite a few people from Texas and stuff, and what some of them didn't realise was secession in Scotland is quite a left-wing phenomenon because pretty much everyone is a socialist in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
We still supported secession, and there is libertarians here. We're a minority, but we still, you know, we went and voted yes. But the problem is, you know, the main force behind it, the Scottish National Party, are hardcore socialists, man. They call themselves social democrats, but that's kind of what we've been That's what a lot of our American friends sort of didn't realise about it. The fact there's the sort of weird left-wing nature of secession in Scotland, you know, because I know in America secession's considered, from what I know from the people I've talked to, it's considered, you know, not so much of a left-wing sort of phenomenon. Yeah, it's quite different. We're getting off the Scottish referendum. Oh, we've talked about this so much, James, I can't even tell you, man. I talk about it all the time. What I wanted to talk to you about, actually, if we're talking about the UK, you know, let's go there. We watched a documentary about this English prepper, and what he'd done is he'd moved to Slovakia because he said when, you know, if and when it hits the fan, being on an island like Britain, a very small island, would be a disaster. So that's why he wanted to move to mainland Europe, because he thought that would be way safer. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's
Bearing in mind how small Britain is.
Yeah, I could see how he would think that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Your resources tend to be kind of limited. You only have so much land mass, you know, on an island like that.
Yeah.
You know, which I see on the other part though. Like, there's a documentary from the BBC, Wartime Farm. Highly recommend it. And they documented what England did during World War II to feed the people without importation.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they tripled farm production. You know.
Yeah.
They had to do rations, so everyone came out of that healthier. So it's possible, you know, if you pull together as a country, you know, to get things done, which I feel is necessary. I mean, during a collapse, if everyone breaks off on their own and does, as a people, you're going to die. The people that will survive and thrive will be the ones that band together, you know, to help each other out, mutual assistance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible, you know, if people really pull together, you know, and work the land, use the natural resources that you do have. Fishing, I mean, you know, whereas here in Tennessee, not so much with the fishing and stuff. We have some good lakes and some good rivers and streams, but you're surrounded by coastline. I mean, that's lots of good stuff out there to harvest. So really, it's finding your resources and optimizing them.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, because actually if a collapse, sort of, say a worldwide collapse happened, then we wouldn't have the EU fishing regulations, so that would be a bonus as well. But like, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard a couple of times that, you know, you have the old story of, I don't know if you know it in the US, but it's very common here, people say, oh, carrots make you see in the dark. And the story I understand behind that was because one of the things that we didn't run out of in Britain was carrots during the war, and part of the propaganda was because they had all these blackouts. So part of the propaganda was carrots make you see in the dark, so more people would eat carrots because that was one of the few things that we had in abundance in this country, you know.
You use what you have.
Yeah, during the rationing, which I actually thought was kind of funny. If it is true.
I'll have to Google. I will Google.
But then talking about food, you're very much into the paleo diet, if I can call it that, or paleo lifestyle.
Yeah.
How you want to call it. Why don't you tell us what that is and why you feel that's important?
So, paleo diet is sort of trying to mimic our ancient caveman lifestyle, you know, with modern foods and technologies.
Right.
So the basic rules to get into paleo are no grains, no dairy, no legumes.
Okay.
I break the dairy rule. So technically what I do is probably closer to what's called primal, but I'm not picky about terms. So I tend to I'll consume full fat dairy, so heavy cream, grass-fed butter, grass-fed cheese, you know, no low fat, no skim, none of that junk. So I'll do that. And it's a whole health, you know, a bunch of reasons. So no beans, no peanuts. That falls in the legumes category.
I was gonna ask. Pardon my ignorance, but what constitutes a legume? What is a legume? I don't know if that's just like a really naive thing to say. I don't know, but what? I don't know what it is.
It's a pod. It's anything that grows within a pod. So
Oh,
beans,
okay.
So like peas or
peanuts.
things like that.
Oh, okay.
yeah. Which is the only
I'm with you.
yeah. The only real exception would be green beans, which a lot of people in the paleosphere tend to say that they don't have a lot of the anti-nutrients and lectins and stuff in them. But I hate green beans, so I don't eat them either.
Oh, okay.
So that's not an issue.
Yeah, I just don't do it.
Thank you for clearing that up for me. I could have Googled. I came out with it before I even thought that was an option. Thank you.
No problem.
I know that's interesting. And James, do you think that being like sort of, do you think that if there was like a major collapse, that being on that diet would be advantageous to you?
I do. I mean, obviously, we evolved eating this way, so it has to work, you know. Which it makes it a bit harder for, you know, large communities, which we've already discussed. I don't think large communities are possibly the best thing. That's where agriculture came in, and then since we introduced agriculture, health in humans have declined. You know, heart disease, cancer, decay. Those are all symptoms of modern agriculture. Whereas our hunter-gatherer ancestors didn't have those problems. You know, we started shrinking as a species and getting sicker as a result. Mm-hmm. You know, our long lifespans now, which I tend to think are more of a myth, really. Do
you think that we're kind of propped up longer? Like, we're just
exactly.
Kinda,
exactly.
It's funny that you say that. I work in pharmacy, so I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sick, unhealthy people just being like trudged along through life and not really thriving through life.
Yeah.
You know.
I know.
Another main aspect, like so on paleo, I tend to eat a very high fat diet, which most people will tell you will kill you, clog your arteries, make you fat.
Yeah.
So I was almost 300 pounds last year at this time.
Oh wow, really?
Yes. Now I'm about 200 pounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't have thought that from your picture. I'm looking at it right now on the screen.
Yes.
So I wouldn't have thought that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I've lost a lot of weight eating a high fat diet, more energy, more active, and then one of the best side effects of a high fat diet that I like is you're not hungry. Like you can skip meals. Like instead of before, when I was not eating as well, you know, the thought of food was sort of there. It's like, I could probably eat. You know, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and now you're so satiated by the high fat that you know, like going 12 hours, you're like, crap, I should probably eat because I haven't eaten yet. You know?
I should.
So, I mean, during a collapse, how beneficial is it to not have to like eat every 2 hours, have 2 o'clock in the afternoon crashes, you know, and then be hangry all the time?
I know. I know. I completely agree. Like.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because, for example, like there was a time there where I was doing a lot of weightlifting and stuff. I was trying to put on some muscle. Well, not trying to, I did.
You did.
Yeah.
You were successful.
Yeah, but from what I realised from, you know, reading things and stuff like that was that bodybuilders, like, I was reading things that bodybuilders written. They were saying fat's good, but good fats, obviously not trans fats and stuff, but things like salmon and stuff. You know, your good fats. And what I read, what was very interesting, is they even said like when they were slimming down, because now like these professional bodybuilders, they sort of go up and then they slim down. But they even said when they're slimming down, they don't exactly stop eating. Their kind of idea was, well, a lot of things I read, a lot of people said, well, even if you're trying to lose some weight, what you have to do is eat a lot of small meals that are, you know, concentrated in sort of things like protein and stuff like that. You know, as opposed to the idea of starving yourself, which some people think is a good idea, is just, it's not going to work. Eat a lot of, they were saying was eat a lot of small meals, and that's probably better for you. You know, if you're doing the right thing.
Do you agree with that, or?
I've gone back and forth on the small meals thing. I would say for 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of went down the bodybuilding, you know, path too.
Yeah.
So I lost a bunch of weight. You know, I was doing like traditional body lifting, 5-6 days on, split body routines and stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was doing the 5 meals a day, of typical body, like brown rice, yams, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it did work for the most part, but it was kind of a hassle too.
Yeah.
Because you're having to eat 6 times a day.
Even when you're not hungry, you feel you have to.
Right, right. So I just for convenience factor, I'd rather eat 2 or 3 high fat meals a day, and not think about it the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Instead of 6. So both work, but I'm lazy and I prefer to only eat 2 or 3.
Oh, we're lazy too, man.
I'm thinking about trying it. It sounds similar to me to like a high protein eating plan such as Atkins diet. Is it similar in ways or no?
It can be.
Yeah.
For maximum weight loss though, you'll actually want to not do high protein.
Oh, okay.
So if you're eating a lot of fat and protein and a minimal amount of carbs, your body will go into a state of ketogenesis or
Yeah,
ketogenesis. So, but if you eat too much protein while you're in ketosis, your body will convert the excess protein through a process called gluconeogenesis into sugar.
Oh no.
Yes.
I don't want sugar.
So it can stall out weight loss, and when I sort of tweaked and got that under control with sort of high fat and moderate protein, low carb,
Sure.
that's when I hit the sweet spot and pounds started shedding off. Where I want to say last December maybe I dropped 20 pounds that 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's sort of just tweaking it to find out what works best for you.
Sure.
But it also helps the wallet by eating a little less protein because protein's kind of expensive. So
It always
you
is, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of eating like a huge, 8-12 ounce steak, I would cut it in half, and add some veggies smothered in, grass-fed butter. So I get my fat up there. I get, some veggie matter in my stomach, some vitamins from that. And I get my protein. It helps you feel fuller. And then it helps your wallet, which I like too.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question then. Do you think that, say for example, we had a major collapse and you found yourself with no supplies, do you think you could get adequate nutrition just from foraging and hunting? Is that something you've trained yourself to do at this point?
It's something I'm always working on. Trying to learn, the natural edibles around me, which some people, instead of focusing on like everything that's edible around you, try to find say 10 that you can recognize spot on in your area. Walk around your block and you see dandelions growing, you're like, oh, I could eat dandelions, that's something I could eat.
Can you?
So
wow.
pine trees I think have 10 edible parts on them, I think.
Really?
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
The pine needles you can steep and make a tea out of that's higher in vitamin C than a lemon. So I use that. You should take that for your cold, actually. It'll knock it right out.
Thank you. I'll try and find a pine tree. I don't know. I'm so bad with tree types.
No, see, I find that quite fascinating how like you could forage for these kind of things because, I mean, like I know a lot of people in work and I've got like a normal sort of working class job, and the only things that people in my work know how to forage for are magic mushrooms to get them stoned. They don't know how to take care of themselves, and it's a sort of weird situation I find myself in. Do you know what I mean? But
that could be a barter right there during the apocalypse. People still want to get messed up on mushrooms, so they can trade mushrooms for food.
So we should just bulk buy in mushrooms. That's what you're telling me? That's what you're saying?
He is not advocating any
No, we're
illegal
not
activity.
advocating the use of any drugs at all. Dan, back to you.
No, it's quite interesting though because you find this thing about like. What I want to ask as well, like, there's been, I've read things back and forth about GMO food and organic food and blah, blah, blah. But what I've come to understand from things I've read and things I've heard is that with like the sort of GMO sort of rubbish fast food you get, you have to eat more of it because there's no nutrition in it. Whereas if you have like a sort of a grass-fed beef burger or something like that, and it's good food, the nutrients are still in, so you have to eat less. This is my understanding. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if you compare it to fast food, the nutritional value is about equal to a cardboard. So you're not getting anything. You're malnourished while at the same time being obese. I mean, I don't know if that's a huge problem over there in the UK.
Oh yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know here in the States, obesity, and especially here in the southern parts, it's a pretty big issue.
Yeah.
Along with health issues on the rise because people are eating more and getting less out of it, and it's destroying their health.
Yep.
So and the nutritional value in conventional food. So if you can't afford grass fed and you have to get conventional raised meats, you get some nutrition there over at least fast food.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, cooking at home is cheaper anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the higher up you go in like organic, grass fed, the more nutrition you get. Technically, the less you need because you are getting more nutrients per the food.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at the nutritional breakdowns of say grass fed beef compared to wheat, the nutritional profile is massively disproportionate.
Yeah.
Where people think
totally
wheat is a health food. It's lacking in vitamins, minerals, nutrients. It has tons of anti-nutrients. Did you know anti-nutrients existed?
No.
I did
Yes.
not. I did
Not
not.
only does it not have any, but it's taking away nutrients. So and the nutrient profile in grass-fed beef and grass-fed beef fat are off the charts.
Wow, that's...
I feel like that's been hidden from me. I didn't know that they existed. Like people they're always going on about like
Aye, there's things
know,
they don't mention.
they don't say that.
It's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like propaganda. Like there's a lot of like backdoor dealings with the government, and like pushing the vegan agenda.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess they have more money than the cattle people.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, well, that is quite interesting, because, I was I ate strictly vegetarian for a while, but then I sort of moved back into eating certain types of meat after a while because I actually didn't feel so well, to be honest, and
Yeah.
it was kind of a moral thing for me because I'm like, I don't kill insects or anything if I don't have to, the other day a wasp stung me, and it got my fist. But but generally if I see an insect in the house I won't kill it. I'll put a spider outside because Katie's kind of
I'm
scared of
scared
them.
of
Yeah,
them,
so I'll put it outside
so.
or anything. So I don't tend to kill things, but I kind of found when I was eating purely vegetarian, I was wasn't feeling so well. And the other thing was, what I realise now, which I didn't realise at the time, was I was eating a lot of, these kind of frozen vegetarian things, and they're so unbelievably processed. See, when you look at the back, it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? All these kind of weird chemicals.
With
So
numbers.
Then,
They actually have numbers on them. I don't like it when my ingredients have numbers.
Yeah, so
I
I
don't
thought
agree.
I thought I was eating better, but then I actually came to realise that, no, I wasn't at all.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are ex-vegans and vegetarians because they felt like crap. And
Yeah.
I've got an ex-girlfriend right now that's like vegan, I think possibly vegetarian, and she keeps talking about all these health issues she has, and I just want to like shake her and be like, "It's
Have
because
some
you're vegetarian."
steak.
Yes, and recently she's developing some sort of thyroid issues, which I know from like the paleo sphere, like. I know a lot about, hyperthyroidism and Hashimoto's because just from the paleo world, everyone has it. That's what leads them to paleo half the time.
Well, I've got a thyroid thing.
There
That's what I've
you go.
got. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Proves your point.
Yeah, that's another reason you should go on.
Yeah,
it.
no, I am actually thinking about it. Like I was Googling today. But anyway, I keep jumping in. I'm sorry.
Yeah. it's my half next mission in life to like cure people of thyroid. It's like just eat the way I tell you now.
Well, I will happily try it, my friend. I will. I'm gonna do it. It's
I mean,
happening.
I think the most amazing thing, and I wish I could remember the lady's name. I was listening to a paleo podcast, and there's a lady that came on that had MS, multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very. I know a load of people with that in this country.
Yeah,
It's so prevalent here.
Yeah, loads.
oh wow. She had gotten to the point where she had lost mobility and started to get into the wheelchair,
Yeah.
and she developed a plan that was sort of like, paleo is a baseline of where I think you should be eating, and there's extents of where you can go up or down. So I'm actually sort of like downgraded on paleo because I do some cheese,
Right.
Yeah.
And there's ways to go even stricter with paleo through like autoimmune protocols and stuff. She invented a protocol that's a little bit stricter. She's like, there's these 8 cups of vegetables of different kinds you have to eat every day.
Wow.
And she completely reversed her MS.
Really?
She's running now.
Wow.
You all. I always.
That's fascinating.
I do usually read these stories about people, especially when you read about, for example, medicinal marijuana, for example, and you read these stories and people will go, yeah, but it wasn't the marijuana that cured his cancer, But it does lead me to think, things like organic food, getting back to, nature, basically cutting out all the middlemen from the process could really do wonders for diseases if we would just maybe try it as an actual clinical trial of organic food. Have they done it? I don't know.
Well, can I just jump in here quickly, because that kind of leads me to something I was interested in, because what you've said there, and for example, there's all this talk about Ebola, and I know I've read your article on Ebola as well, and a lot of people would say that it's kind of different because Ebola spreads in Africa. I know there's a lot of different things about how Ebola is spread in Africa, to do with, like a lot of things to do with, terrain and how people are close together and, sanitary conditions and all these things. But I've read a lot of things where people are saying that the infection rate has got something to do with malnutrition. Like, you're more likely to contract it if you're malnourished.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of these people that do get it are malnourished, borderline, sick anyway. I mean, they have bad water to drink, so they're not drinking good water. They're not getting good nutrients. They're sick, and they have compromised immune systems anyway. I mean, that's why it's tearing through parts of Africa like a wildfire. I mean, they're not healthy anyway, and the hospital conditions over there are another big factor. They're not quarantining. Yeah. They're reusing containment gowns, so they're both. Yeah, instead of burning.
What's the point of reusing?
Yes, which leads to the staff all getting sick and dying, and then having to close down hospitals because they can't staff them. So then there's no medical care. It's a whole debacle over there.
Oh gosh, it's awful.
That's why, I mean, I'm not worried about it. I know you're not.
No.
I mean, the best advice I can give people is just stay healthy. Just try to make yourself as healthy as possible, and your chance of beating it is that much better.
Well, yeah, that's the point as well. I mean, there's no need to kind of freak out, because we kind of get this all the time, don't we? I mean, we've had bird flu, swine flu, SARS, and all this rubbish. And then we had the movie Contagion. I don't know if you've seen Contagion, but oh my god. Have you seen Contagion, James?
I skipped it because it looked terrible.
And do you know what made it worse, right? It was bad anyway, right?
But then it got badder.
Yeah, what made it worse was Jude Law played this kind of this guy on the internet, and he was the
Don't spoil it for people.
Oh, who cares? It's a shit
Spoiler
movie.
alert.
There's no need to watch it, right? He was this sort of what was termed a conspiracy theorist, and he had all these people, and they actually changed the way his teeth looked. You can look this up on the internet. to make him look uglier. This was true. No, absolutely true. I'm not joking. And he was this kind of crazy internet guy, and he supposedly had this cure, but then the government discredited it, and the CDC actually saved the world at the end, and it showed out that these crazy people on the internet were wrong, and it turned out that he was opposing vaccines, you know, the Jude Law character, all this kind of thing. And then it turned out that the government were the heroes in the end. It is one of the worst propaganda films I have ever had the misfortune to see in my life. And for anyone listening, James Corbett's film Literature in the New World Order take on it, corbettreport.com.
Yes, watch
go
that.
Look at it.
Fabulous.
But
anyway, back to the point.
But anyway, back to the point. James, here's something I wanted to really ask you. I was listening to a podcast of yours recently, and you were talking to Mike, and Mike is hilarious, by the way.
Oh yeah.
We love Mike. We think he's fucking funny as fuck. Yeah, he's great. But you were talking about this big knife, and that you were using, and you'd said you had it in your car, and that made me think: do you have a bug out bag in your car that you keep with you at all times?
Are you allowed to even say that? Is it secret?
Oh yeah. I try to keep the bug out bag in the car at all times, so I have that level of preparedness.
Sure.
I also use the same bag for camping, so I'll bring it in and I'll swap out supplies sometimes, but I try to always keep it in there. I mean, not just for I've never used it to bug out. I have used it for camping. And I have used it more often than not. You know, it's like I'm out with friends and they're like, I forgot to bring bug spray. Oh, it's in my bug out bag. Oh, I forgot to bring sunscreen. I've got that in my bug out bag, you know. And I have, you know, some cash in there, and I have, you know, a lighter, you know, all these things that, you know, yeah, they can help me out in a disaster, but man, do they help me out in everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, aspirin. How many times are you out and your friends are like, I've got a headache. I need an aspirin. Oh, I've got some.
It's in my bug out bag.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know what's so funny? Because, like, I'm like a postman, right? Or a mailman.
You're not like a postman. You are a postman.
I am, right. Yeah, I am. But, by the way, I just want to put this in for anyone, because we've got a lot of US listeners. Royal Mail is not owned by the government. It's a private company. Just want to throw that out there. Just keeping my libertarian credibility going. But anyway,
I was going to call you out too.
Yeah, don't worry. No, it's a private company. Completely private.
Awesome.
Check the London Stock Exchange. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, like, even though, like, I've always done that, like, see, even before I ever knew about prepping or survivalism or anything like that, I always kept all this shit in my mailbag. Like, I have one mailbag that I keep in my van that's not got mail in it. It's just my stuff. It's like got, you know, like sort of waterproof trousers, a waterproof jacket. It's got like hand wash and stuff like that, you know, like 3 bottles of water, food. Like, I just keep all this stuff that I probably won't need. I even have stuff like tablets and stuff that I might need, you know, like painkillers, Imodium, things like that. I keep all this stuff that I might need in there. And then I thought, when I've actually watched these prepping programs, I thought, shit, maybe I'm a prepper and I don't even realise it. Like, I just take this stuff to work because I just think I might need it.
I find that people with common sense usually tend to, like, move, like, the libertarian mind, the common sense mind leads you to prepping sort of by accident.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dan and I were talking about homesteading a little while ago, and I know you're embarking on a project at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, your dual homesteading project, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be moving to the homestead the end of this month, and then it's a project called Dual Homestead. You can find more at dualhomestead.com. We've got some YouTube videos up and stuff, so
we'll link it up on the site.
Yeah, it's a little fun project between me and another survival website owner. He bought the land. I'm going to be the land steward. We're going to try to, like, you know, do projects, make the land productive, raise animals as a team. You know, and we're sort of vastly different in mindset. Whereas, you know, I'm punk rock anarchist, into fitness. He's, you know, Christian, conservative, family man, overweight. You know, how are we gonna, like, get along without killing each other, basically?
I think it's gonna be awesome. Like, are you guys doing this as like a show, like a TV show kind of thing? Is that what you're
We
hoping to
we
do?
do plan on like we may launch a Kickstarter. That's sort of my idea.
Sure, yeah.
He wants to take it to a TV production company. I think they'll screw us over, so I'm not super
Yeah,
happy about that.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely have YouTube videos and like we definitely want to do like full length episodes, like 30-minute long episodes,
Yeah.
something like that.
So that'd be cool. Like, because I heard you talking, one of the podcasts I was listening to today. You were talking about he kind of wants to go with like sort of more mechanized, more kind of like chainsaws and things, but you want to be more like axes and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to be more traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, man.
I love that. Like, and I wanted to ask, like, in your opinion, how important is it to own your own land? Because Dan and I, we have a mortgage on this place, but it is in no way ours right now. And I have seen sometimes pieces of land for sale that are sort of under like 10 grand, and you kind of go, maybe we could like do that. But then I think, what is the point? But do you think, James, that there's a point in doing that, maybe for planning for the long term?
Like,
or
there's a satisfaction in doing the Lockean homesteading thing of sort of
even though it
mixing
might
your
take
labour
a
with the
while?
land, but there is
Yeah.
a kind of pride that comes with that, and it is an important thing to do.
I think if you can get land, if it's in your budget and you can do it, it's the best prep ever.
Yeah.
But I don't want to discount like lease options and other things like that. I actually didn't know you guys could own land over there. I thought there was some weird governmental shenanigans with that.
No, you can't own land, but it's like anything else, so you have to pay property tax, but maybe you don't, as far as I know, you don't, own the mineral rights underneath your land and this kind of stuff, that kind of rubbish. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, yeah, having land, being able to produce your own food on it, being able to, just that security, I think is one of the best preps. Period. If you can do it, and there, like I said, there are other options. I'm doing a sort of a work trade where I'll be managing the land, and that'll provide for me being on the land. So choice, things like that pop up. You just have to be ready to do them when they happen. The fact that I was debt free and starting to make some money with Survival Punk, it allowed me where I could quit my job and then make this move to the homestead because I don't really have any bills to pay.
Yeah.
Well,
It's definitely a factor. I mean, Dan and I both work full time, so it's definitely trying to figure out all the logistics of it.
and absolutely. But there is something I wanted to ask you, right? Because, we're talking about if whatever happens. What do you think is the most likely thing that could sort of hit the fan? Like, what's the most likely thing that could sort of totally break society apart? I know it's a mad question, but
no, I definitely think that the fragile world economies, they can't last much longer. We kind of saw some of that in 2008. And I know some of the European countries got hit a lot harder than we did here, which it was pretty bad here. At the time, in 2008, I was working for Walmart, the biggest retailer in the world. And we had a meeting where they were talking about, if the economy doesn't pick up, we will start laying y'all off.
Oh,
which
my.
I've never known of Walmart to do a layoff. Never.
Isn't Walmart like sometimes where you go if you really need a job? Like, you really is that what it's like? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Walmart will take on anybody really. Which, not to bash them, and they do kind of pay fairly decent. So
yeah,
sure.
That was good. But yeah, I mean, I've never heard of them doing a layoff, and a lot of people lost their jobs. And it's like right now it's sort of precarious, house of cards that, it can't sustain much longer. And the governments and the bankers and the corporations of the world are trying to like just glue it together long enough so they can, get the last bits of money off of us before they pack up and move on somewhere better.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, because I've always thought that, like, people talk about all these kind of scenarios, And I've always thought the main one has to be the economy because, I mean, it's not just in the US, it's all over the Western world. It's this fiat currency, it's central banking, and they keep inflating the currency over and over again. I know it's not like the Weimar Republic where they inflated the currency so massively so quickly, but like they're still doing it, and they can't keep inflating the currency for so long. It has to collapse at some point because, I mean, anyone with any sense knows that it's based on, you know, pardon my French, it's based on fuck all, if we're being honest. And it's just like they can't keep inflating the economy forever, because I hear people talking about, and I've seen like different sort of, you know, prepper documentaries, and some people talk about, like I said, some people are kind of, I actually find bizarrely it seems to be most of the lady preppers that are sort of more just from what I've heard and seen and talked to, that are more obsessed with disease and stuff, you know, that kind of thing. And then some people are obsessed with like EMTs and things, you know, and all these things could happen. I just think personally the most likely one is a financial collapse, you know, just because if you know anything about economics, you know that it's only going to last so long and things are going to go downhill because we just can't continue with fiat currency. I mean, surely not.
I mean, you brought up Weimar, Germany, and you know that was like what 1,000% inflation, where
God, it was
real
crazy.
barrels.
And actually, do you know that they actually used to, some people, like, you know, they used to have the money in wheelbarrows. Thieves used to go outside, they would leave the wheelbarrows of money outside the shop, and thieves used to come up and dump the money out of the wheelbarrow and steal the wheelbarrow, because the wheelbarrow was worth more than the money.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
wow.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I mean, I can't even imagine, like, if you just gave us a 40% inflation, that would destroy things. Yeah. I mean, you know, if things even went up like that much, people couldn't do it. I mean, most people now are living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, even a 10 or 20% raise in inflation would break most people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, the gold and silver. It's the best way I can explain why you should be storing silver, because silver's more of a working class, you know, mundane metal. I can't afford gold, but silver is invested. So in the year 1964, in the United States, where we still had silver currency, you know, dimes and quarters were made out of silver. Yeah. You could buy a gallon of gas in 1964 with a quarter. If you took a quarter from 1964 today, a silver quarter, and went and sold it, you would get about $3.
Really?
Which is about, you know, here in the United States, the price for a gallon of gas. So that really illustrates inflation right there. You know,
absolutely, yeah.
It's stayed current with that. So, I mean, yeah, you can barter with silver and gold during, you know, a collapse, you know, eventually. Like during Argentina, when they had their collapse, people were breaking off gold necklace links and, you know, trading for stuff.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah,
So it will happen, but if things don't completely, you know, hit the can, you know, it's a good monetary, you know, hedge. Like I bought a bunch of silver years ago when it was $12. Now it's trading at like $17.
Yeah.
That's a good investment. You know, I could go sell it. You know, when it hit 50, I should have sold some silver, but I just held on to it. So it's just for, you know, diversity in your investments, I highly suggest, you know, getting some silver. Just every paycheck or so, go spend, you know, like a couple bucks, you know, like I said, right now it's $17, so you can go buy an ounce of silver, you know, every paycheck, every other paycheck. Really, you know, that's just you eat out one less a month or something.
It adds up.
You've got an investment.
Yeah, and what's your opinion on cryptocurrencies? Because I know you take Bitcoin on your website.
I like Bitcoins. I was actually I seem to have forgotten my password, so I'm trying to figure that out.
I had that problem as well.
Common problem.
Well, we got a donation, and then I was like, shit, what's my password?
Yeah, I was trying to tip you guys some Bitcoins.
Really?
Oh, thank you.
But I can't remember my password. And I was like, crap, what's my password?
Dude, it says it's the thought that counts, so the sentiment was there. Do you want to tell...
But I was just going to say, yeah, that's the sort of thing, isn't it? It's like, I think Bitcoin could be a great, you know, like, it could totally replace fiat currency, But then if we're talking in a completely survivalist mode, then I would say if you're being sensible, you want to have stored cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Litecoin, but I would say, and I would assume you'd agree that you'd also want to have some precious metal, with you in case you need to barter if things should happen.
I mean, Bitcoin, I do think, is another part of, a diverse investment portfolio. I don't really do any stocks right now, but I do gold, tiny, like not even an ounce of gold, lots of silver. I do Bitcoin. And like you said, if the collapse happens or whatever, I don't think the internet's going to go away. There are enough nerds out there that will keep the internet going.
They'll keep it running.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
I mean, point-to-point ad hoc networks or something, the internet would not go away. So even if it would take a massive disaster for people not to rebuild the internet, within a few weeks to months. I mean, if that happens, then we're probably all living in caves and eating grub worms anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Screw it.
Yeah.
But James, right, so start to wrap up here, and thanks so much. We've really enjoyed this, actually.
This has been great. Do you want to tell our listeners about survivalpunk.com?
Yeah, tell us what people can get in your website. Tell us.
Yeah, so Survival Punk is a combination of all my passions, because I was too scatterbrained to come up with, to get everything I wanted, I would have had to have like 6 websites. So survival, DIY, the paleo nutrition, the occasional rants on political things.
Yeah.
And, I like punk music, so occasionally I'll throw in, a music post here and there, which I'm probably going to knock out a Halloween post here soon.
Nice.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, that's great, and that's what we loved about your website. That's what because we wanted to do a show about survivalism and this kind of thing, and when we found your show, your
something
whole website,
just felt right, and we thought,
with the DIY punk
let's
ethic, that's
touch.
something that resonates with us, because we've done everything with the DIY punk ethic over our lives, so that's kind of what
we really liked it.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to have you on, James.
See, that was something when I got in survivalism, I didn't see anyone like me in the community.
Yeah.
There was no, young, Mohawk tattooed kids, doing survival. I'm 32 now. But the information was out there, but I couldn't really relate with anybody. It was like,
that's important.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm starting to see a lot of, people that I can really relate with. Like, I've gotten pictures of, I'll send out patches to people, and they'll put the patch on their, bug out bag next to their Doc Martens and stuff, and then they'll show me their mohawk with their patch on their vest, and I'm like, badass. I like that.
But that's so funny, isn't it? How something weird like that, like it's like people don't realize like that a punk ethic can, because for example, like my parents hated punk music and I love it, but it's funny how like a punk ethic can unite you when you're talking about like. Because we've talked about economics, philosophy, political philosophy, survivalism, and all these different things, but it's funny how it's like a punk rock ethic that drew us to each other, and I find that quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the punks I like the most is, they just did stuff. I want a record, screw you record company, I'm going to record this on a cassette tape and start giving it out, and people will like it, maybe
Absolutely.
they'll buy me a 40 or give me some money or something, but I'm just going to do it, period. Screw talent, I'm just going to do it until I'm good at it.
Bartering, anarchy, it all fits.
Yeah, that DIY ethic is one of the most important things. That's something I learned as a teenager and I've still kept,
You've kept on going, my love.
Right, so as we're going to wrap up here.
For more libertarian podcast writings and news, go to greenitpodcast.co.uk.
And James, thank you so much for coming on the show. We have so enjoyed it.
I've had a blast. Thanks for letting me on.